There you go.
All right, we are live. Good morning, everybody. Not my fault we're late today. I handed controls to Maurizio, and
You know what happens with that, when that happens, man,
as soon as you start touching tech. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Morning, guys. How you guys doing today?
It's just, hey, Todd. Hey, everybody. So, what an interesting week in crypto, then. I'm going to be really quick with my bits this morning. Um, the stuff that I've been saying about the structure, right? That's all very well and good, and it works, and it's something that you definitely want to aspire for. But in this environment, if we take a moment to think back to what Maurizio did last week, and we'll get him because this is why I'm going to be quick, and then he'll go more into detail on this. If you look at what Maurizio did last week, he played in this zone of probabilities and ifs and conditionals and maybes. And then he adjusted his risk so that if he did lose, he was going to lose a small amount, but the asymmetric upside was possibly off the charts and you can add to a win later. So last week was a real masterclass in you've got me, one person that's going, crypto's easy, wait for come down, keep waiting, come down, and that does work. And then you've got Maurizio that's like, yes, but there is opportunity in here whilst you're
Mm,
waiting. If you look under the hood, I think that the CVD is one of the biggest things that you look for, real buyers,
mm,
real commitment with the kind of order flow coming through. And then there was, you said something along the lines of, hey, we've just started a war and Bitcoin hasn't moved. And that's made me suspicious. So I'm just going to look into that suspicion a little bit and and yeah, that is all in, especially the update videos.
mm.
They are the ones that really let you into Maurizio's brain. And the more that you can see the way that he approaches and the language that he uses. Because you remember the amount of times he said to me, well, what does that mean, Ian? You're saying this, but what does that actually mean? And yeah, that's all I really wanted to say to hand over to Maurizio because everything that he tells you to do, you can watch him doing it during those update videos. And obviously, Tau was a lovely trade, and when Moon.
Yeah, that
Over to you, dude.
I'm happy. Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that we'll go through. So first of all, how you guys doing today? How you guys feel about crypto today? Give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts before we start. I wanna hear your thoughts before I start, you know, rambling about mine. BTC not that optimistic, okay? All right, feeling positive. All right. Have you guys noticed a pattern that when you feel like crap, things move to the upside. When you feel optimistic, maybe things will turn around. I just want to, this is a really good gauge, but this is the same gauge that you should actually look into it for, uh, for Twitter, YouTube, whatever you guys watch. If you do watch all the stuff, right? And but it's gonna come to a point that you feel positive, market is positive, and those are the moments that sizing matters. You know what I mean? Like, when it says size matters, yeah, it does matter, right? And in one or two good size trades, I think it could make up for the whole year. That's as simple as that, right? But it's a lot of patience and a lot of practice, right? So, but then when you're optimistic and the market is not doing what you're supposed to, then changes things around. So learning how to do that is very tough, man. Very tough. It's a lot of years of not practice. I think it's a lot of years of losing money, learning from your mistakes, all that sort of stuff, right? So let's get cracking. So obviously there's a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about. Let me just share my screen. Give me 1 second. This market is good. Market is good. But don't get caught up in what you think about the market, right? Let's always do the same process. Same freaking process, man. It's going to help out tremendously. All right, do you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So last week, Ian, you mentioned structure. Still, structure is king. Okay, just in my
Got it.
mind, structure is king. Okay, so let's start with that first. Okay, where are we structurally speaking? In the main, like in the majors, right? Let's start with Bitcoin, and let's start with let me just turn off all the things. Okay, weekly. All right. What was your take, structurally speaking, last week?
So pretty much everything of mine was based around that 200 EMA,
Yeah,
which we had lost and closed below, or we got at least a month's activity below it.
yeah,
So I was of the opinion of I'm in no man's land. I need a
yep.
weekly close below or above it, and then I can react accordingly.
All right. Cool, cool, cool. Something important is when the structure was broken. So the start the if you learn this, man, if you only do structurally breaks and ups and downs, I think that's the only thing you need technically. But it's a lot of patience and a lot of understanding of that. So let me start from the weekly perspective. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we broke a structure here. We broke this little structure, right? Like, and that structure is sort of important in a way. So if you start seeing structural breaks, at least the next candle, more than likely will follow that. Okay, if that, so obviously I'm not, talking about possibilities, probabilities, and all that sort of stuff. It's easier to say what the market is going to do perhaps in the next day or so that to actually time the market and say, oh, okay, in the next year, this is where the market is going to be. Very tough. I was looking at this morning, some people asking me about Tau, right? Like, do you think Tau is going to beat 300? I have no fucking clue, man. Like, I'm gonna go through and that's basically the process that I want you to think about. Price action, is Bitcoin is gonna hit the million? I don't know, man. But what I can say is what the price will react in certain levels, and that's basically the opportunities that we're aiming towards, right? And if you do risk management, right, then things should work out, right? So that's the first thing, structurally speaking. So where we at the moment, we still haven't broken, like we're still sort of in a downward structure from the weekly perspective. Would you agree?
I agree.
What do we need in order to either break this structure, right, or have confirmation towards the downside?
So I think that we need to have, well, it looks we've still got 50 minutes, but it's
Right.
looking like we're going to have a weekly close above that EMA. So I would then be in the shit, man. We need another 2 weeks. We need another close above it. And then we need a week of what I would call acceptance, meaning the is in and it starts to show upward momentum back into that block of about 80 to 80 odd. There's a big green block at the top there. Even though it's not
Yep.
green on your screen, it's green on mine.
Fair enough. All right. So yeah, so Ian is looking at the 200 EMA, right? Obviously, that's a gauge, right? That's a resistance level. Any, by the way, guys, any EMA, TMA, SMA, whatever you put in the charts, is going to act as a resistance or as a support, right? Is going to, because a lot of people are looking at the same sort of things, and depends on how the market reacts. He either respects it or doesn't. And if it doesn't, then that level doesn't become that valuable any longer. in my, you know what I mean? In my opinion, that's why I only keep a few. I do a little bit more averages and things like that, but it will complicate things for you. Anyway, so that's kind of something important. Like, what is that EMA means to you, means to the market, right? And what's the reaction around it? So the first thing that I'm watching right now from the higher time perspective, why? Because from the lower, like from the structural perspective, we're still bearish. We haven't flipped from the weekly. I'm talking about, and I'm gonna take you through a top-down analysis in a way, right? So weekly still bearish. You can clearly see that that level there, the 74, right? The 74 is a big number, huge number. Why? Because right here, right? This is the breakout that happened on November 24th. Then that level was respected again here. That was the other level that actually took us to the second leg, right? So that level is an important level from that perspective, from the week. Have we managed to break that yet? Not really. Now, in trading, you have probabilities, right? Either you go before it breaks out, or you wait for the breakout and you know, stuff like that. But trying to free run, you're gonna be wrong several times. When you're right, it's going to be like that Tao trade, right? I'm gonna go through it, and that's kind of where I'm at, right? So from the weekly perspective, right, we're still bearish, right? A little bit. Like, I'm not bearish. And by the way, excuse my language when I say bearish, is you know, I'm not seeing that this is going to just bounce straight through here, you know, because I'm not seeing it. Like, especially after seeing this candle here, right? And this candle went all the way up to 74 from the weekly perspective, and then bang, all the way down. Now next week is trying again, but it's stop at the same level. Now, I'm not saying that this might break today in about 15 minutes, 45 minutes or so, but that's what I'm watching at the moment. I cannot actually, I can only make decisions to what I'm seeing at the moment, right? That's why I took some profits. I'm going to go through the profits that I took on Tao, you know, and then probably sometimes you think, oh, fuck, I should have stayed or whatever, but you can only go by what you see in the screen, right? So weekly, we still need to clear the 74 level, in my view, in order to go to the next level. What's the next level? Around this area right here, around the 80, right? Which I be saying around the 80 probably goes a little bit up, but there is a good chance that we're going to fill this gap, right? And when I mean fill this gap, is like a mean reversion trade, right? So something that you also have to keep in mind is what type of trade are we doing here? Is this a trend trade? Are we following the trend? Are we against the trend? Or, you know, we're going to fill that gap towards moving the change of trend, right? So where are we now from the weekly? And feel free to just type anything.
So is that where are we from the weekly in the sense of, is it a trend trade or a mean reversion trade?
Yeah. So let's say we go long here. What are we trying to aim if we go long here?
So we're hoping to, well, we're not hoping, we're looking to get continuation to the upside. So trend.
Trend. Why is trend in your view?
Oh, fuck. I feel like I just stepped on a landmine. Okay.
Oh, it's good, man. I always ask yourself
Yeah.
why, and then you
Yeah.
know, like, give me 25 reasons why.
Because
me.
if we were to switch to the daily chart, then it would look
No,
like
no,
it's
no. We're
trending
talking
upwards.
about weekly. We're talking about weekly. This is the only thing. Let's say that you only traded the weekly chart. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
Well, on the weekly, I would have to call this a breakout. So I don't know. This is a really good question. Trend or mean reversion? Well, wouldn't this is good, right? Because I was about to say,
yeah.
wouldn't mean revert be mean reverting back to the 200 MA? Where is
Mm-hmm.
it we're going to mean revert to? That's the bit I don't know. That's why I can't.
No. but that's perfectly said.
Yeah.
And that's what I want you to understand, right? So first of all, if you use the 200 EMA as a guideline, which I use, the yellow one is my daily 200 EMA, which is 200 days.
Hmm.
Basically, is the price action of 1 year. Essentially, you should have used a 365 to make that assumption, but I used the 200 because it's the more like a lot of people use the 200. I want to see what's the gauge of that, But,
Okay.
but you know, and then if you, I'm putting here your 200 EMA weekly, right?
Uh-huh.
So think about from the perspective that we have a 200 EMA trend trade.
Hmm.
Why? Because this is bouncing off the trade. 200 EMA is still sort of going towards the upside, so longer term, right?
Hmm.
And mean reversion towards the daily, right? That's it.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
when things get juicy, and when you actually say, yes, this is going to be a full trend trade, is when all trends align. So,
Roger.
all right. So
Yeah.
right now, like if you see right around here, right, like this is sort of the same deal that we were
Hmm.
doing, and then everything aligned right here back on October November 2023. Everything aligned. We're up 200 MA for you, and we are up the 200 MA daily, and then trend all over the place, all over, right? So
Hmm.
this positioning right here is going to be very, very important to size properly, right? Whenever we get it, we are going to get it at some point, man. It could take a year, it could take 2 years, it could take a month. But what do we need in order for, and these are the juicy spots, right? So right now, we're still playing against the daily trend. Do we have a chance that that will flip? Yes. Do we know if it's going to flip? I have no fucking clue. As simple as that, right? But we do have a high probability that we could actually fill that gap. What's going to happen around this gap? Who is going to win? The bigger traders that are trading the bigger time frame, or the smaller traders that are trading the daily trade. You know what I mean? That's the kind of mindset that I always think about, right? Like where we at, right? So based on that, right? If I'm placing a long, then I need to be mindful of all these levels. I mean, I need to be mindful that the market could turn around here, right? At 86, between 80 and 86. That's it. Mindful. I'm not saying that it's going to turn around. I'm saying that I need to see what the price reaction is going to be at those levels, right? To say, oh, fuck. Now this is a fake out, this is a breakout, this is a continuation of trend, yada, 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 right? So yeah, I'm just taking you to how I'm going to approach what's coming, because this is kind of my mindset. So do you have any Todd? Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah, exactly. And this is from the weekly perspective, right? So this is the weekly. So obviously this is higher time frame stuff, right? But then I always look at the higher time frame stuff, because the higher time frame stuff is going to give you when to size properly and when to size, like, if you come around this area right here, right, I'm going to start sizing bigger, and there's higher probability for you to have those breakouts, and those breakouts is what it leads us to price discovery. That's when the market is going to go nuts, right? And then, so obviously this is a waiting game, unfortunately, and knowing where you are in the main market maybe is going to clear up some FOMO. I don't get
Mm.
it. FOMO is like, fuck, this is going to the moon. I don't think we're ready for tokens to go to the moon yet, right? That's my gauge. I can completely go wrong, and then probably all market is going to go to the moon. But based on where we are structurally in the main time frames, you know, um, that's where I'm at, and that's my decision. And am I going to be right or going to be wrong? We'll find out, right? But but this is when we're going to definitely start looking for to take profits. So right now is a good time to take profits on the trades that we took. And I'm going to go through that, why, and I'm going to give you a little bit of risk management. Okay, so that's kind of my take so far, structurally speaking. Now let's go back and you have any questions so far?
This is awesome.
Awesome. All right, so we go daily now. Now, where we are, where do you think we are daily? Right now, we know when where we are weekly. Now, tell me what you see from the daily perspective. Just make this bigger.
Okay. Well, we're having repeated attempts at challenging for that kind of let's call it 73,000 line.
Mm-hmm.
But the volatility is really compressed over the last couple of weeks. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're mean reverting either side of that EMA almost every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now I think we're at a decision point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. And
yeah.
what decision is that?
Are we going to see bullish continuation by moving, well, yeah, daily closing above, let's call it 73
Mm-hmm.
for that bullish continuation, or we're going to see it mean revert again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Exactly. Exactly.
now
Exactly.
here's a bias thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, this has done the same thing so many times now
Mm-hmm.
that it's in that kind of like, I guess this is where traders get trapped because it's that like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this thing's just going to mean revert again, isn't it? Because that's all it's done for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's easy to just think that. It's like I don't know, but it's like, yeah,
Yep.
it's probably gonna mean revert again.
Yep. Yep. Which is this is a tough one to say. You know when Scott mentioned, and it's something's in my head, right? This is something that is I learned this from Scott, and I have a poster. It says the market is always gonna fuck up the majority of people.
There we go.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking to myself, who is going to fuck? Like this is the thing. Who is going to fuck up the most? At this moment, I don't know yet, to be honest. But that's the question that I ask every day, right? And obviously, uh, that's the
Gotcha.
question that I'm trying to solve when I go through CVD. Because if you look at the market by solving a question, I think you have a
Mhm.
better understanding of what your assumption might look like. Instead of if you think of a bias, I think that the market is going to do this, then you don't know if your thinking is correct. You know what I mean? This is a mindset shit. Like this is a brain.
Mhm.
So if instead you say, okay, who is going to fuck up? Like, what is the market is going to fuck up the most of people, right? And that's if I go through the lens, right, and start answering. So here's what I'm saying. Okay, um, structurally speaking, let's go with structurally. Structurally
Mhm.
speaking, I'm still like, yes, last week. Let me just bring up what we did last week. Bang. All right. Look at this, how close that was to
Mhm.
my little fucking thingy there. Anyway.
Tickling the balls. I think they call that setup.
All right. So, yeah, last week I mentioned that I was still bullish because structurally speaking, this candle broke above. I did not like this coming back below, but I still like that we haven't broke structure to the downside. So I was bullish. That was my that was my assumption, right? And therefore I took some trades based on that, right? Now, where we at the moment? Now the whole week was bullish. The whole week there was no one day like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday, what I mean, like yes, Sunday, obviously. Yeah. Now this is pretty interesting in my view, right? A few days with no selling, so I'm seeing a strength, right? This is basically what I'm seeing. So the whole point to answer is, are we going to respect this range? Someone in the chat said that we're ranging, right? And or are we going to break out? And if we do, like I've been saying, if we have that breakout, it's going to pop up straight up of the 80. There's a lot of is that gap here, there is no volume, and whoever drives the market is going to take that. Is going to take that. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of strength, right? So, but I'm kind of so how would we go about looking at, is this going to have continuation, or is this going to 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 go down? So the next thing will be to, let me just bring up let me stop the sharing for 1 second. Let me bring up the other screen. Where are you? Right here. All right. So now we're going with CVD, right? Let's share with the CVD open interest, and to see if we have a story about behind this thing. What the fuck? Where'd it go? 1 second. Let me pull this to here. All right. That should be it. Share screen. You guys see my screen now?
We do.
All right. All right. So, by the way, there's more advanced tools to measure this, right? Is highly technical. I use them sometimes, and like order flow analysis, orders and stuff like that. But then I think we can go too deep into this rabbit hole. But essentially, what it is to find if we do have a strength in terms of CVD volume, like spot buyers, essentially, are spot buyers at this level. If they are, then we do have a highly likelihood that we're going to have continuation. If they're not, then this is going to become a range. That's my assumption. You know what I mean? I think about it from the perspective, who's driving the market? If the market is being driven by perps, expect ranging, expect people fucking up, expect, all time like highs, like type of this market, like ranging, liquidations to the upside, then market comes down and liquidations to the downside. If the market is being driven by perps, why? Because obviously, there's no volume behind it. There's no one buying spot, so it's easier to actually manage the market from a market maker perspective. That's basically what the assumptions could look like, right? So, in order to answer that question, are we seeing volume? Like, is this price attractive for spot buyers? Period. And what are spot buyers? So institutionals are spot buyers. ETFs. That's when ETFs, ETFs buy spot, right? They usually don't get into the open into the perf gains, stuff like that, long-term holds, shit like that, right? It's very difficult to make transactions from that higher end perspective. So, what do you reckon? If you look at this chart, what do you see before I start mumbling? Because you can have a different view. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong way, and yeah.
Well, no, this is super interesting. I mean, total transparency, I was just having a message conversation with Caroline, so I didn't catch everything
Okay.
I did here.
No,
But
probably people in the chat, right? Like people in the
yeah,
chat.
the key thing I think that you said here, though, is that, at least from my opinion,
Yep.
is does this price look attractive to spot buyers? And what I mean there is, it's like you're not just looking at the chart and saying, is
No.
the chart going up or is the chart going down? You're looking at the chart and you're saying, who in the real world is going to get excited about this?
Mm-hmm. Correct. And that's basically the combination of price action versus what's going on. If
Mm,
price action it'll work by itself, it'll be very simple to set up an algo that actually runs, all right, if it's green, then buy, if it's red, then sell. And that's kind of that doesn't work, right? So it's the story behind it, right? Is to catch those big moves, right?
Mm.
So tell me in the chat, guys, do you think we're ready for the big move? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves, right? And if so, why? And if it's not, why not? Okay, Jim, say yes. So tell me, Jim, give me 25 reasons why.
Yeah, Jimmy, he'll do
Jim is
that
like,
every
Jim
time,
is.
Jimmy. He will never let you off the hook.
All right, Todd. Not good. We have broke through. Okay, I think Todd is answering Marlon. Okay.
What
Yeah,
about
just
the less technical aspect of this as well? Like you always ask people at the start of the call, how do you feel about crypto?
yeah,
And I often think big moves tend to happen when you can't give a fuck about it. Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. It's horrible. I don't want to look at it. Oh, there
yeah.
was a big move.
All right, let's go through this because I'm gonna explore your thinking. Aside, Jim, 2 more weeks when Iran is finished. And question for Jim, how do you know Iran is gonna finish in 2 weeks? Now, James, AI bots trading is driving more. Okay, question for James. AI bots, do you know which ones are they trading? Do you know if AI bots are trading perps or spot? Uh, and if you do, yeah, please, this is just something just to expand your mindset, right? In terms of thinking. A calm, spot volume not there yet. Yeah, that's a really good assumption. What do you need to see, calm, in order to think that the spot volume will come there? And Jim, Trump said that. All right, yeah, Trump said it. Yeah, right. That's an interesting. And Java, and if Iran is not finished, which they won't be, what happens with the collapse of the petrol? All right, I'm gonna go with that because that's a really interesting assumption. Okay, so I'm not an expert on geopolitics. I have no fucking idea about the economy, to be honest. I'm not an economist. I'm just see what the market does in terms of certain reactions. That's it, right? So let's start with those assumptions. Let's start with the volume. There's not enough volume, and here's my assumption. Okay, that's why I see the 30 minutes, and I 30 minutes gives you this story. Obviously, 30 minutes is a very short time frame if you trade daily or weekly, but it gives you a story of where the buyers are. Okay, that's basically what I'm looking for when I look at the 30 minutes. So let's go with the story. All right. So the first intake of volume, right? The first buyers came around this area right here, right? That's when bulls start saying, fuck, this is going around 67. So that's the first lane. This is the first defense of bulls. Whoever came at 67, think about it from the perspective that they are in profit. Would you agree? I don't know if they are. I don't know who they are, but then whoever bought at 67, they're on profit.
Yeah.
You don't know if that haven't sold. You don't know. You don't know anything. I'm just making an assumption. I'm just making a story here. All right. So that's the first level that I need to be watching. 67. Why 67? Yes, he lines up with a resistance, support, whatever, whatever, whatever. But this is the bigger volume came through around that level. Would you agree?
I do.
All right. Now we keep going through, right? The first level that actually you have a sold, people start selling, and that was my reaction on Friday, on Thursday. I don't know what day. Then I start selling. They start seeing a lot of selling on CBD spot, and I say, okay, this is going to start feeling riskier here. That was my decision, right? And that's why I took some off the table, right? Not fully, but that's why I took some off the table. Okay, based on this, because I didn't have this information. I only have what I was seeing here, right? So then what happened is that at this level here, right? At this level here, see the volume, see how the volume lines up with the resistance level. And this is very important and very interesting aspect of volume analysis. And CVD, I'm talking about CVD is volume analysis, but spot, and it's an aggregated. So anyway, so it's very interesting that do you see this candle right here? This is on 30 minutes, right? On
Hmm.
30 minutes, huge spike of volume, but then every single volume is being sort of holding that line. Bulls are holding that line. See? Over the weekend. Bam, 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 bam.
Hmm.
Right? This is very telling. What do you think this is telling you? Throw in the chat. Give me a quick just
This feels like Scott's analogy where he says the Bulls and the Bears stand punching each other until one runs out of steam. I don't know if that's the right analogy for here, but certainly the Bulls seem well, the Bulls seem in charge, but they
yeah.
don't. That's why I brought up that punching analogy.
So here's a really great setup that you should be looking at, right? So there is a lot of now, like have a look at these liquidations. Okay. Right now, in the last hour or so, there is a lot of shorts being opened that are getting liquidated, right?
Hmm.
Based on what you mentioned, Ian, which is basically ranging, right? This is a great place to actually get a short, and I'm seeing a lot of these ones sort of uh, getting liquidated now. Let's go through hypothetical cases now, right? And something that I'll be watching very closely, and this is when you like, and when I see watching very closely, unfortunately, this stuff happens. Like it's very easy to see on 30 minutes, very difficult to see on 4 hours, very difficult to see on daily, right? Because on daily you just see how this developed over the 4 hour session, and then it's very difficult doing CVD analysis on higher time frames in my view, right? Maybe but that's kind of so. Here's what I'm watching. If we get this dump right here, right, and we get this kind of, is going to clear a lot of these people that went long around here with leverage, right? Is going to fuck up a lot of people right here, and this is going to have continuation. Are we going to get this kind of setup? Who the fuck knows?
So you're saying that everybody that went long could get shook out of their position. So
Yep,
then they will likely then have to swap their position because they realize that they're wrong, and that will add more momentum to the upside.
correct. Why? Because these guys here, CVD is a different mindset of leverage traders. Leverage traders, what we want to do is put a stop loss and have a risk reward sort of look something like that. Like if I go long, can I put my stop loss here? Oh man, that would be a great trade, right? CVD spot buyers, they buy unless they could buy more here, they could buy more here, you know what I mean, they have a longer time frame, and unless they are in the red for a while, then they start closing positions. Or if there is a significant risk in the markets, that's when sports start selling. That's kind of what I've learned so far in terms of what sport, and the difference in mindset between, ask Todd. Todd is not a stop. Ask Todd. I know Todd is a leverage trader, right? And he's trading like crazy. If he sees a big sell-off, either it's going to get stopped out or he's going to actually
He's a
close,
degenerate. He's
right?
probably there in just his underwear. What a foul beast.
But if you ask, I don't know, an ETF fund manager, he say, "No, I'm going to buy a million here, a million there, a million there, a more longer time frame with no stop loss." He'll do a stop, he'll do a spot, no leverage, things like that. You know what I mean? So it's a different mindset. So you could hold positions for longer. So you're not sort of concerned. So with that being said, this is one setup that I'll be looking at, right? If we get this sort of fucking fake out, it fakes a lot of people out. I start seeing liquid. So how do you know that's going to happen? You have ideas. So the first thing is CVD sort of continues strong in a way, like it doesn't sort of shit the bed. Two, you get liquidations, right? You get a lot of liquidation towards the downside. You get those longs liquidated, right? And three, you get this sort of stable. You don't see this thing reset, and then after that, you could see a really massive. So that's option one, right? Option two, because I have no idea if that's going to happen, right? Option two is that from this place, we continue right there. How many of you think this could happen? So we go option one. Yeah, let's start adding probabilities after. But option two, like from this point on, from the $72,000 range, this is going to break out and we're going to have that fucking breakout to the upside. How many of you think that that's going to happen? I'm interested to hear. No way. Okay. Maybe. No chance. Okay. Possible now. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Wow, this is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. That's why I ask you guys, because obviously, we do have, how many people we have here? We have 61. 61. And then we'll probably say that 80% or 90% of you guys say no. Right? So that's the lowest probability, right? So probably that's the one that we should be trading. I'm just saying. Okay. So you see what I mean in terms of that may be the one that is going to fuck the most of people over, right? And being on the sidelines, right? So because once things break up, right? If it breaks up, it's going to, I'm pretty sure it's going to trigger a lot of short liquidations, and that's going to fuel the market towards the ups. And then what happens on that is, think about it from the perspective that if Bitcoin goes up and up and up and up and up and up, and you say, fuck, should I buy, should I buy, should I buy, should I buy, then triggers FOMO. And FOMO comes in and fuels the market until it turns around. Okay? So this is all to say that in my view, I have a 50-50 here. Exactly 50-50. I'm not biased, right? But how would you play 50-50? If I want to go long right now, I might start with a small position. So I'm same thing, and this is sort of develops into the risk management, what we did with Tau, right? You start small, and then if it works, great, because Tau work great. And if it doesn't, then you lose a little. You know what I mean? If you're not right on this 50-50, right, then let's imagine that we go long here, right? And we manage to break, you are there, you're on the position, you are biased. If this never happens and I wait for this to happen, I might be chasing the price later on. That's kind of where I'm at the moment. Okay. So that's basically just to give you a summary, but I give you the whole long mind thinking what I'm thinking. Okay. So yeah, size is important. What I mean by that is whatever longs we do at this stage or whatever shorts we are, you should be treating it as a high risk in a way, and you need to define what high risk means to you in terms of your account. Is 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever it is. Everybody has different risk tolerances. So you need to define that before what small means to you, right? And go from there. So that's to say that so we have 15 minutes before the day.
Maurizio,
Yep.
I was just gonna, this is the appropriate time. My apologies. I think I've made a bit of a boob with the Zoom setups. So could we
Okay,
actually finish the call in about 8 minutes? I
perfect.
realize I'm
Yep,
shortchanging people by about 5 or 6 minutes. My apologies.
that's cool.
I'll make sure it doesn't happen next week.
No worries. So let's get to the point here. So essentially, 15 minutes towards the end of the day, I'm gonna be monitoring that. But what I wanna go through is our trade. This is our TAO trade, right? So it's basically you risk 1 hour. Now we're 7 hour. You know, we so far we're 7 times more than our risk. Great trade. Take some profit right now. So we took some profits around here, right? Around this line, right? I took 30%. I'm going to take another 30%. Very important. Why? Because now stop loss is on the man. You already took profit. If this has continuation, I might add more, but it hasn't been any pullback. It's going to be a pullback at some point. It is going to get to 300 before we get the pullback, maybe, but this is risk management. Okay. Uni, why I closed unit? It wasn't giving me any like I closed it a little bit here with a little bit of a loss. Another one, I don't know if you guys have are still in this trade. GST, please take some profits now as well if you are in this trade. This trade's been since fucking January, but finally it worked out in a way. So I'm going to take 30% now, move the stop loss, so no risk. And now that you have no risk, you're taking more profits, you put it into your leverage account. So next trades you can size more, but with no risk. That's kind of, obviously you win a little, but then as we start moving, and if the market decides to actually keep going up, then you have more money to actually trade more trades. That's basically what I'm thinking. So far I'm still looking at all these same suspects, right? The one that I really looking this called I'm looking at Sky and XPL, Sky and XPL. XPL could fill that gap quite quickly, but this is a risky stuff, right? It's a lot of people have forgotten about XPL. A lot of shorts are being piling up. So if market moves, I think this one could do a really good move to the upside, right? Is this going to go to one? Who the fuck knows? But I'm just going to perhaps see what the reaction of this one looks on a on those explosions, so I can actually use that effectively. So I think that's it for me, guys. So just be mindful. I'm going to be exit another portion of Tau. It's been great, man. Like this trade, it's been really good. Let me show you so far. Yeah, this is the screenshot that I took this morning. Yeah, but that's so far so good. Obviously, it depends on your size. So and GST as well. So obviously, take some profits. There's going to be a lot of opportunities if market keeps breaking to the upside. A lot of opportunities. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it for me, guys.
Awesome. So I've actually got a random one for you, Maurizio. Could you click
Sure.
render just below Tau and could we have a look at it on a weekly first of all?
Yep.
One of the things that I've been trying to do a little bit more is look at the general altcoins that are on, our watch list and thinking which ones have really got the structural strength now, because they could be possibly next time round, they could be the leaders of the pack.
And
And
yeah,
Render was one that I haven't
yep.
got many.
I think render is good. Very good. Like that's why it's in my list, right?
Mm,
Because I know AI. Oh, Uni is no AI, by the way. Just let me move this because this is the all AI backs that I'm looking at, and render is part of it, right? So Tau
mm,
render between these two, though, I chose Tau just because risk management. I didn't want to go in on both
mm,
because they're
mm.
very correlated, but they're like render I really like it structurally, right? And I really like it's been from the daily, it's been just going and going and going. So if we start breaking above, this could be another one that is actually looking at. And if you look at the your spaghetti charts, sorry, okay.
I can see Render there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is something that I've been watching. Like, which one of and the AI world is giving me relative strength, right? And you start seeing Renda popping up. You start seeing, obviously Tau was my first option. There's a few caveats here. I don't like AKT and ARC. They're so fucking I'm peeping. They're so manipulative. So I'm just going by infrastructure. Big ones, Tau, Renda, Virtual, AXVT. No, don't worry about that one. Those are the biggest ones that I'm watching right now, so I can get position on those ones because they're difficult to move. You know what I mean? If that's kind of bigger market cap on those ones. Okay.
Awesome. Really, really great, man. That was a
All right, guys.
fantastic one. See you all in the group. Ta-da.
Bye bye.